everyone. My name is Jason, and I'm a recent graduate of Computer Science and Business at the University of Waterloo in Canada. I wanted to share my GMAT journey with you, including my experience with Target Test Prep, or TTP, which was my main study resource. If you're considering the GMAT, debating whether TTP is worth it, or just trying to figure out the best way to approach your prep, hopefully this helps you out. So let's start from the beginning. My GMAT journey started in early 2024 when I was deciding between the GMAT and the GRE. My advice for anyone in the same boat is to take a diagnostic test for both and see which one plays to your strengths. That's what I did. I took a practice GMAT exam with literally zero preparation back in February and scored a 685. That was a pretty clear sign to me that the GMAT was the better choice, so I committed to preparing for it. At that point, I ordered the official GMAT prep textbooks off of Amazon and then promptly ignored them for a few months. Life got in the way, and it wasn't until later in June that I actually opened them. I started working through the official resources and online question banks, but it quickly became clear that they weren't structured enough for me. I was just clicking through questions, getting some right, getting some wrong, but not really improving in any systematic way. It felt more like guessing than actually learning. At this point, I realized I needed something more structured if I wanted to reach my target score before I started working full-time in August. So I decided to try another practice exam to set a proper baseline. This time I scored a 695. Not a huge jump from my original 685, despite looking through the official materials for a week. To me, that was my sign to look for a more effective prep solution. I ended up choosing TTP after speaking to friends and alumni from my university who themselves had gone through the MBA application process. Several of them mentioned TTP as their primary GMAT prep resource, and after reading online reviews, I decided to give it a shot. Thankfully, my company was covering my GMAT prep expenses, so I wasn't too concerned about the cost. But I do recognize that for some people, TTP's price might be a factor. So if you're on the fence, I'd definitely say take advantage of the free trial and see if it's worth it for you. I personally did the 5-day free trial and then signed up for a 1-month subscription, and I planned it just so that my subscription would end right after my scheduled exam date. That way I could make full use of the month. From the start of July until my test in early August, I dedicated basically all my free time to TTP, probably hundreds of hours in total. Since I was on a tight schedule, I followed the accelerated study plan, which skips most of the quant lessons and focuses more on the actual quant practice questions. Given my background in computer science, I felt confident enough in my quant skills to take that shortcut. Now let's talk about my experience actually using TTP. For me, the biggest value came from the structured lessons and the massive bank of practice questions. The lessons were clear, well organized, and focused on exactly what you needed to know to succeed on the GMAT. There was no fluff, no distractions. I also found the test-taking strategy content particularly useful, especially for the verbal section. For critical reasoning questions, for example, TTP does a really good job of breaking down common answer types and common traps. By the time I got to my final few practice exams and to the real test, I felt like I had a much stronger grasp of verbal just from understanding the patterns in the questions. That said, I didn't use everything TTP had to offer. I didn't do any of the live classes or the tutoring, mainly because I was comfortable self-studying. If you're someone who benefits more from interactive learning, though, those might be worth checking out. One thing I will say is that TTP is very comprehensive. Maybe even too comprehensive if you're on a short timeline like I was. The amount of material they provide is massive, and while I tried my best to follow the study plan as closely as possible, I didn't finish 100% of it. I had to skip a couple practice sets towards the end just because I was crunched for time. If you have more time to prepare, I'd recommend spacing things out more than I did. Studying for the GMAT while working full-time or being in school, it's definitely doable, but you'll probably want to give yourself at least a few months rather than trying to squeeze it all into 5 weeks like I did. So how did it all turn out? Well, after grinding through TTP for a month, I scheduled my official GMAT for early August, and I chose to take it in person. I figured the change of environment and added pressure would help me focus. On test day, I ended up scoring a 735, about a 50-point improvement from my first practice test. That was a score I was happy with, so I decided to call it a day and not retake the exam. If I had to give one piece of advice to anyone preparing for the GMAT, it would be to recognize the level of commitment it takes. This test isn't something you can just cram for in a week. It takes real, focused effort over an extended period of time. I was able to push through it in 5 weeks because honestly, I had almost nothing else going on that summer. But if you're juggling work or school, just make sure to set up a study plan that's realistic for you. The GMAT is tough, but a great score is absolutely attainable if you put in the work. Looking back, I'm really glad I chose TTP as my main prep resource. If there's one course or tool I'd recommend for GMAT prep, this is it. The content is thorough, well-structured, and designed to help you genuinely understand the material, not just memorize tricks. That said, everyone studies a little differently. Some people might need more time, others might focus on different modules, but however you use it, I think TTP is a great option. I've been recommending it to all my friends who are considering the GMAT, and I feel lucky that I was able to use it for my prep. If you're thinking about the GMAT and looking for a structured, well-designed study program, I definitely say give TTP a shot. I hope this review helped, and best of luck with your GMAT journey.